This is kind of a special episode, I think, for us. This is my best friend. We've been through a lot of stuff together.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah. But I don't know if you've noticed, I'm white. My best friend in the world is black. And our lives have been very different because of that. So this episode, I'm going to be kind of interviewing him, trying to see what the different perspectives that he's had from life because of how it's been different for him.
Yeah. So everyone's pretty aware of what's happening right now in our country in terms of what was June 6th today or June 7th. I'm bad with dates right now. But it's been a lot going on with our country, and we've had a few videos that have come out of, some undeniably gruesome things, gruesome ills that have, honestly, they've lived always in our society. What's making them really different right now is there's a group of people who are for the first time having to come face to face with them. Whereas there's another group of people who that's the only face they've ever seen. So that's a bigger thing. And so I've seen, so many people, blacking out their social media accounts, posting things about, Black Lives Mattering. So many people from different hues, again, white people, black people, other people of color, saying all these kind of things, saying that, we need to end this stuff now. We need to end it. And obviously, I 100% agree being a black person.
Right.
But I kind of wanted to discuss what does that end mean and what does it actually look like? Because when people say they want to end racism, they want to racism it's such a systematic thing that it affects me very overtly every single day. And it affects white people very covertly every single day, whether they know it or not. It's affecting all of us. And so when you talk about ending something that is ingrained in the very nature of this American society. So when we think about America, we don't think about America until it being, 17... What is it? Well, obviously we don't become a nation until, 1776. Right. But then we're in American colonies. We're the American colonies in the 1600s, 1607 with Jamestown. So you think about that, they discovered Virginia, Jamestown in 1607. And then reportedly, the first African slave person is brought here in 1619. So 12 years of habitation in America for European colonists. In that 12th year, they decide we're not going to do this whole indentured servitude thing anymore, or we're going to lessen doing indentured servitude, which was a process of, European colonists, you owe a debt to somebody else, you serving them in their household for free because you owe them another debt. So it's still a form of repayment. It became that too. We are going to capture human beings, put them on to a ship, take them from the home that they know to a whole new place, be put in my opinion, the most brutal system that has ever been implemented by humankind. Now, we can have a debate all on that, but to me, that's what it was. It changed the culture, it changed language, it changed religion, it changed habits. It forced it's like taking a polar bear and putting the polar bear in the Sahara Desert. And that's what happened. And that is the inception of this country. The absolute inception. So when you start talking about we want to change something, realize that there is no America without this inherent racism in there. Because we're not talking about this land that, again, was taken away from Native Americans. We're not talking about that because that was a whole different system. It's a whole different society. We're talking about America. A 400-year, nascent experiment that really, since the beginning, Black people have been inferior, white people have been superior.
Right.
It's built into everything. This isn't it's just police. I guarantee you it's built into the airline system as has been showcased. It's built into firefighters. It's built into doctors as it's been showcasing.
Yeah.
Doctors, it's built into lawyers. It's been built into the teachers. It's built into the real estate. It's built into every fabric of our existence. So I'm going to go ahead and let you know that this is about changing the status quo. So this is one of those episodes, if you already don't like what I'm saying, maybe, go to the next episode. So, yeah, status quo change. So, I can let you ask me the first question, man. I'm an open book, man. I'm here to be raw today.
Okay. Was there a time that you realized, like, I'm black or I'm, like, different from other people?
So, I come from a 2-parent household who is more so upper middle class. So I was privileged enough to go to private school for most of the majority of my elementary school. And my elementary school was majority white. So going there when you're a 6-year-old kid, I didn't necessarily, we had if there's a class of 20, we have 4 black people, a few others, and maybe like 10 white people. So you see that, but you don't see your child. You're playing with crayons. You're playing with that kind of stuff. I remember I had one friend, and we had a Martin Luther King picture. Martin Luther King Jr. It was February, so we're learning about Black History Month, and I'm called black, so I colored his skin like with a black crayon, and everything obviously, I'm 7 at the time. It made his eyes and everything blend in. And whereas my other friend, he saw Martin Luther King and he colored him with a beige crayon. Whose interpretation was wrong? Neither. It's how you're learning about someone who fought for all these kind of things. And to me, I'm called black. And that's not necessarily, this is black. This isn't necessarily black. So it's like, I'm looking at it just from a physical term's sake. But then he is also seeing this great figure that we're learning about. He's saying like, oh my gosh, he's fought. He has his own holiday. And he's considering, well, he must be white. So you start seeing the inherent bias at that point. He couldn't even fathom learning about a historical figure and not seeing it as himself. Whereas me, because obviously I was black, I knew a little bit more about Martin Luther King. I'm just looking at it from a crayon perspective. And so I can say probably that was my first cognitive realization of there's a difference between me and at the time he was my white best friend in elementary school. So that was one of the big things. And then in 5th grade, I went from that private school to a public school setting that went from majority white to all black. And it was, like I said, it was night and day difference. Not bad. Some things are better, some things are worse, right. But it's just different. And so to see all of my people in, with no mask on, just a whole different setting, it was like, this is definitely different than what I was coming from. And so I saw that, teachers, whereas in my private school setting, there were no like security guards. There were no, it was a backdrop of everything. Just, you felt safe without having to have safety measures around. But when you got to the public school setting, I never really felt safe. And I had security guards at every corner. So it was like, am I safe? I don't really feel safe with you here, but you're here if you need to break down. So it's completely 2 different mentalities. And again, at that point, I was probably like 11 to 12. So it's like, I can kind of see that there's just a difference in this. And, those friends I had from private school, I kind of lost. And then, I forgot to mention. So in the private school, there was one huge instance that I didn't see it affected me, but I saw how it affected my mom. So me and again, this same best friend, my mom was the homeroom parent for my class. So she was always there, helping out in every single thing. I love my mom. I have the best mom in the world. I'll fight anybody who says anything otherwise. I know Blair says she has the best mom in the world. She should. You do have a great mom. But so she's serving as the homeroom parent, and again, best friend at the time, right? Peas in the pod, and his mom would not come in during the Christmas party to help serve our homeroom. She went to another homeroom to serve because my mom was in there. Like, I heard my mom talking with the teacher of the situation, and like I had never seen my mom so much out of control in front of her child. Like, it just hurt that much that you won't even be with your own child because another parent is there with their child. She didn't want to take orders because my mom was a homeroom. This was her domain. You want to come serve the classroom, you have to follow by the rules that she sets up and in place. And that was I want to say it was my final year at that private school. And I think it affected it. I don't know if this was a subconscious or a conscious thing, but I think that led me to the path of going to public school, at least, or to be, educated amongst my own. So yeah, so that's kind of,
okay,
where I saw those at.
So was that your first exposure to racism?
Like I said, I think it's consciously. I think that's consciously I said,
right.
But from obviously, from the get-go, it's like from born. I mean, in the womb, it's right. There. It's seeping into your DNA, into your formative process.
Yeah,
it is.
I was specifically asking about consciously.
Okay, consciously. That's from what I can remember. Yes.
Yes. Okay. What is being Black? Okay,
not an easy question at all. And first, I want to say that obviously I am not the expert on Blackness. Not saying that you're expecting me to be an expert on Blackness, but Black is different to every single person. It's different to every single Black person, and I don't want to think that I have the definition of what it is, and everybody. Okay, now you can go tell your friends that this is what Black is. Like, no, this is just from my opinion. I think Black is it's one of three things, honestly. One is obviously a skin color. And the skin color is what unites, someone who's actually melanated in Africa, who's native, so a Nigerian, if you're South African, not African, but South African, Namibian, that kind of stuff, or if you're Jamaican, Haitian, or if you're, just in America, African American. So there is that we are all Black because we have the same skin color. But again, as in with European nation, how there's Italians and there's French and there's British, but there's also, we each have a different culture. So, you go to Jamaica, reggae is totally different there. That's a part of their culture. While we do have a love of reggae here as well, but that's their culture. Right. Here it's hip hop. So it's a different culture, but it's different also. It's a way of talk. It's a way of moving. It's a way of, it's a way of feeling. It's a way of being. And not that we have anything better or worse of it. It is that kind of thing. But then the third way I would say is that it's this intangible thing that can't just be explained in words. It's probably something that I would say that, white people never notice. It's like when you hear something in a room and you look towards the other Black person, and you guys make a face and you're mirroring each other. There's nothing tangible about that. It's just, it is what it is. It's the walking down the street and I see another Black man and I give him a nod of recognition, just to kind of acknowledge his existence, because I almost know the world isn't going to acknowledge his existence. Now, with the first two examples, meaning actual skin color and culture, I feel like those are always going to be around. I don't think there's anything wrong with being able to, describe someone based upon skin color. You're a white guy, I'm a Black guy. There's nothing wrong with that. Culture, we're both Americans in terms of culture. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That third aspect, though, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think it's inherent to us now because of the systematic racism that we've had. We have to always, it's like when I do see a Black woman in society, it's like I'm always going to want to rush to be at her aid because I know no one else is. If I see a Black man, I'm going to want to rush to be at his aid, whether right or wrong, because I know society's not going to be there. I know that, if I see another Black man pulled over by a police officer, I have to do something. He could be dead wrong. And then this is going to be the case with people say, well, they were doing some kind of criminalization or something like that. I don't know what law in existence makes that I do a crime and murder should be my outcome. And but that's all I'm thinking. So I don't know if this man is doing a crime. I don't know if this man has been innocent, because there have been people who have been killed who've been innocent, people who have been doing a crime, but neither one of those deserve for their in sentence to be murdered without them getting in front of a trial and a judge and jury. And so it's like I'm rushing over to be that barrier to prevent, murder as the outcome. And that's this inherent thing of like, it's fear. Like, this is what most people, when they see those blue lights flash behind them, they think about, oh my God, I was speeding. I don't want to get a ticket. You know what I think? I hope I get a ticket. Because guess what? That means I get to go home. And that's a huge thing. I get to go home when so many people don't get to go home. So I would say, to me, that's what really being Black is having those three different dynamics and having to juggle them in the day in. Because some days you're always going to have the skin color, but some days you got to determine, am I going to give my culture or not? Because my culture is a lot of times demonized until it's profitable.
Right.
Then suddenly it's oh, we love Black people when it's profitable. We love it when it's LeBron James on the court, you know, but then we don't necessarily love it when it's people in the streets protesting. Like, so but that's all those things are my culture. And then the third thing is, again, it's the inherent non-tangible ways that I'm hopefully trying to explain, but it's this sense of feeling like you have an inherent lack of value, that like no one sees you for who you are, you know. So that's I'm gonna say that's the biggest one that separates. That's why we're having this conversation right now.
Right.
If we get rid of that third one, the other two are beautiful in themselves. This third one, while we have made some beauty in it, we've made a bad situation. We've done what we've invented. We've done what we did with cooking. So like when it came down to, you know, being enslaved in this country, like a lot of our sauces, a lot of our like barbecue and hot sauce and all this kind of stuff, we were given, and even chitlins. Like chitlins are the pig's intestines. Black people were given the absolute scraps of every single animal because we weren't going to get the good stuff from the pig. We got the scraps. And so we had to make it taste good. We had to learn how to like put sauce and all this kind of stuff. And now a lot of people eat chitlins. A lot of people eat all these different things. Everybody eats hot sauce. But like those are coming from places of us trying to make things taste good. It's us finding a beauty in something that's so ugly. And so like that's what Black people have always had to do. It's like America, we've had to make America into this beautiful thing, even though it's always treated us like we're ugly. You know, that's what we're still dealing with.
Okay. What are you proud of?
Well, if I had to go right now, what I'm proud of is, I think right now we live in a heightened sense of time in which, like, again, even with living in a pandemic, everyone's, you know, on their phones more, and we've seen these gruesome videos of a man not being able to jog and having his life taken away from civilians who thought it was their right to protect the country, not to protect the neighborhood, not call the police, but again, take it upon themselves to kill a person who's just jogging. So you can't jog anymore if you're Black, because you're a threat at that point. And then another dude who, you know, is accused of, you know, giving a fraudulent bill at a supermarket, and a man stands on his neck for 9 minutes as he's screaming out that I cannot breathe, that I cannot. So those are videos we're dealing with. So obviously they're gruesome. Obviously we've had videos like that before. Obviously this is not the first time. And if this is the first time you've seen those videos, you know, you can go look at 2014 Tamir Rice. You know, you can go look at 2015 Alton Sterling. I want to say it's 2016 Philando Castile. Like this is not a new thing. Even Will Smith said it. It's like, racism is getting worse in America. It's getting filmed. This is what we have had happen. Like I said, I've been pointing out to people, you can go read the 1959 speech by Malcolm X. If you take away the name Malcolm X and you take away the date and time, it feels like it was written today. Or you can read an 1870s speech by Frederick Douglass, 1870s. Again, that's 5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. You can go read it from here. Take away his name, take away his date. It feels like it's right now. I don't know anything that we can feel right now that we can say that happened in the 1870s, and we can write an article about it and then have something that's right now and it feels like they're the same. I don't know any, or at least I can't personally think of anything that would be the same in terms of how it feels. So what I am most proud of, to answer your original question, is the response that we've had. So many things I've seen on social media about, like, well, first of all, the protesters. I mean, protesting is always important. I think it is to an extent, it's the language of the unheard. I know somebody quotes that rioting is the language of the unheard. Protesting goes along with that. So a lot of people are mad that things are getting burned, that, you know, businesses are getting attacked, that, you know, looting, all this kind of stuff. And first of all, it's not just black people who are doing that. There are also white people who are doing that for reasons that are selfish, not for reasons that are, aiding the cause. But you have to realize that everything I'm telling you, we've been protesting. We've been marching. I just brought up Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. Martin Luther King got his ass whooped several times. Dogs sicked on him. He got hoses sprayed on him several times for him walking to try to have this peacefulness. And so now we're 60 years later, and he was assassinated as a peaceful man. 60 years later, we're talking about this conversation, and you're saying that, we still need to be peaceful, and we still, at a certain extent, you got to realize that people get mad and get upset. So when if you have a perspective of you need to do this and that, I want to know what would you do in your life if your family, if your wife was attacked, if you were attacked, if your children were attacked on a daily instance. Maybe one day you're going to do something that's not as rational, as logical as this kind of stuff. So you're asking us to have logic in the face of something that we're sick of. It's the most disrespectful thing that you can have. When you have so much, if Liam Neeson said his I want to say somebody close to him got raped. And he said for the next month he was out because the person who supposedly raped her was a black man. He said, I'm out here trying to kill black folks. I want to kill black men. That was his reaction. And, honestly, and I'm like, okay, somebody gets raped and you want to kill black people. I have a whole history of the women like me who've been raped in this country. So if he can have that response, then what makes you think that I can have that same response? What makes you think that his response is so natural and my response is so unnatural? Either we're both unnatural or we're both natural. The only difference is a white man said it versus a black man said it. And so it's less dangerous if a white man says it, because guess what? If a white man goes out and kills black people, they're going to get less time in jail if they get time. Whereas the black man, if I go kill a white person, it's a wrap. I'm in jail. You know how many black men have been accused of killing white people and are in jail unjustly? You know how many black people have been accused of raping white women are in jail unjustly? You know how many, you can go with the Tulsa race riots. That's Black Wall Street for people who don't know. That was over a white person accusing rape of a black person. They burned down the most profitable city of black people in the 1920s. You can go Rosewood. Same thing happened in 1917. You can go Emmett Till, who literally, he was accused of whistling at the white woman. First of all, he had a lisp. He couldn't whistle. That's number one. Number two, a few years ago, the white woman who accused him recanted that she said that he never did any of that. So this young boy who was 12 years old lost his life to become a grown man because of that. And those men didn't get trial. They never get trial. We just watched When They See Us a few months ago. Everybody was or maybe a year ago, everybody was all up in arms about how emotional and stuff like this. These were men who were in Central Park in 2008, I want to say, who again did not do the crime. And we had a president during the time who said these men should be killed without them before they got tried. Then they get tried and they spend a decade in jail and then get released. We don't get back time. We can get back everything else. You can give me money. You can pour this up. We don't get back time. We don't get back the loss of our lives. So I think I'm explaining all that to say that the frustration that black people have right now, and that we've always had, that we have to mask every single day. This is the thing. White people don't get this version of us because we have to mask it. Because guess what? This version of us is raw. It's uncooked. It's hard to go into corporate America with this version of us. And so what's happening right now is that I have seen a large unified front on black people. It's been, let's support black business. It's been, let's support blanks. It's been, let's get a plan of action. It's been, we demand this of the legislation. It's been, we got this and that. Because at the end of the day, we got a 2020 election, and people, I'm not going to vote for Biden just because he's Democrat against Trump. I'm not going to do it. I want Biden to do something for my people. Like I said, I want political representation. And that's what black people America's founded on political representation. Black people have never had political representation. You can argue that, oh man, we got a Emancipation Proclamation of 1865. Okay, first of all, we can go into a whole different argument. That's not about just slavery. Like I said, it's not just about ending slavery. It's a lot about a punishment of the South, and it's about equality and representation amongst states. Because again, slave states were counted. Their slaves were counted as people, but the people couldn't vote. So the South had a lot more representation in terms of politics than the North did. And those are issues that are also playing out with that. You can argue, 1964 voting right. We're supposed to have had that with the 15th Amendment in 1867, but we don't get it until 1964. And then even after that, people are still getting attacked for the right to vote and stuff like this. And then we get like, after 8 days of rioting, we get another legislation bill after Martin Luther King was assassinated because we rioted. And it's like, sometimes, like I said, when people don't listen to you one way, you gotta go so many different ways. And so I know for Black people, I just don't say there's no wrong answer for us right now, because we've seen all these different tactics and we've seen America ignore us time and time again, and they keep ignoring us. And they keep ignoring us. And it's to a certain extent, it's like, okay, you're gonna see some, like, you ignore us, but then you want our culture to be so profitable for you. Like, the most exported thing that America does give out is hip hop. Like, that's just a fact. Like I say, everybody loves it. Hip hop is exported around the world. We put our movies have it, our sports have it. Everything that's great about America usually has a hip hop background to it, and people love it. Not saying that the pop or anything else doesn't have its weight, but people love hip hop. They do. But you don't understand that hip hop is born out of this pain. Hip hop comes from the roots of people taking beats that were older songs and they spin them up faster and they're rapping their oppression over it. That's the 1960s and 1970s. That's how hip hop is born. People doing spoken word pieces over beats because of the things they were facing in the 60s and the 70s, and it evolves and it keeps evolving. So when you go look at Tupac, you see how it evolved into what he wanted it to be, and you see this and that, and you see like the J. Cole's and Kendrick Lamar's of the day and how it's evolving to that. And so it has become a powerful art form, but you don't realize that the inception of this art form is, again, our oppression. And so, but you just want that, it has that catch, it has that sound, it has all of this kind of stuff. And I've heard so many people who aren't Black hear references in the song and be like, I just like the song, but you don't even really get the reference. I've never gotten that. Like, I usually like to know the stories that I'm hearing, but that's beside the point. To go back, I went on a little bit of a tangent, but to go back to your thing, I'm proud of the response and unity that Black people have had. I'm super proud that we've been able to take this and have plans of action and calls of action. And that I think over so much, and it's not even just like an American thing right now. People are protesting in London. People are protesting because they face very similar issues with the British government. But like, it's us standing up is making them want to stand up and fight for it too. Because we are more unified by those original two things or at least the first thing, that Black skin color. That's what society sees first of us, and that's what they're demonizing about us. So I'm super proud of the response that we've had. So that's my modern answer. If you ask me what I'm proud of in life, I would say the single most proud thing I am in life is to be Black. And after just explaining all of that, I know that's a very hard thing, because I did paint all of those, the hardships and obstacles that we face. But it's because of that we face those obstacles. We face them with grace and we jump over them. Because this is a marathon for us. This is a marathon for us. And this is another analogy. This is a marathon. A marathon is 26 mile. It's a 26-mile race. This is a marathon in which white people got started on mile 13. And then they told Black people, okay, now you can start the race. Right. And we ran the race. And we ran it along the path that white people were running. Same path, but they're 13 miles ahead of us. And then as we started catching and gaining grounds, they said, oh no. Let's break up the roads. Let's throw barbed wire in there. Let's make this path as bumpy and obstacles. Let's make hurdles way taller than them. Guess what we did? We jumped over those hurdles. We jumped over everything. And in this day, 2020, like, we are still just right behind it with all those hurdles. We are damn near have caught up to it with having all those obstacles. So I'm always proud of the resilience of my people. I'm always proud that, no matter what has been thrown at us, we keep running the race. Like, and that's something that that I see in my people every single day, and I appreciate it. And I think that goes back to why I head nod to a Black guy in the streets who I don't know. He could be a shitty person. I have no indication of his character other than his skin complexion. And I nod at him because I know that nobody else is going to give him a nod ever in life if I don't do it. It's why I smile at my Black sisters every single day, because I know if I don't smile at you, I don't know if you will get a smile that day. And I'm always gonna keep having that recognition for them, because I know the obstacles that we have to jump over, and I know the grace that we're gonna do it, and we deserve to be recognized. was a heavy answer.
I think that was good.
Hope so.
Okay. You ready for the next one?
What's the next one, man?
Who was right? Martin Luther King Jr. or Malcolm X?
Okay. So, Martin Luther King is obviously peaceful protest. He is, this stance of nonviolence. Little known fact of Martin Luther King that, I want to say it's the SCLC, Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which he was, the head of that organization. In their churches, they had a whole stockpile of guns at the bottom. So whereas nonviolence was on the surface, he was also ready for if it came down to it. That's Martin Luther King. Malcolm X, while he's more so by any means that, hey, if you attack me and mine, I will defend me and mine. He also is a person who at the end said, I had to be more radical, so at least they would go with Martin and not me. I had to be that face of adversity so that at least we would get something out of it. Because he knew America wasn't going to give us anything. And so he was like, let us get something. So you're dealing with two men who they have pitted against each other because of their ideological differences. And that's what you're going to see. When you ask me who was right or wrong, neither was wrong. They were both right. Because the thing about it is, with blackness, anytime someone, and this is the Malcolm X quote, anytime someone stands up and says something for black people, it's a paraphrase my Malcolm X quote, but anytime someone stands up and says something for black people, they're going to find another black person to say something else because they want to have that combat. They want that fight. They don't want a sense of unity. Because when you come at somebody as a fist, it's going to hurt a lot harder than when you come at it like this with your fingers separated. There's space here. It's hard. It's not going to be as forceful to hit. And so they never if you want to keep things to status quo, because that's what it's all about. It's about the status quo. And that's why we're calling this episode the status quo. Right. Because status quo is, if you think about slavery is free labor. It's uncharged labor. So if you think about that, you're making profit way more than else. So it's the status quo is we want to keep making our profit. We want to keep having the businesses. Like, how many industries were birthed off the backs of black people that black people never got credit for? Alexander Graham Bell he's credited for the telephone. It's been documented that he didn't invent the telephone. But out of Alexander Graham Bell comes Bell Labs. Out of Bell Labs comes semiconductors, which are in every single piece of technology we have today. Come Motorola, come Intel, come all these great big businesses. And you're looking at, if Bell doesn't get the credit and you give the credit to the black person, how does that evolve and progress? How many businesses did I just describe on that lineage? So how many other things are people taking, how many other industries have people taking credit for that it should have given somebody else? How much wealth distribution has been taken away from us? If there are numbers saying that if we have to do reparations, $52 trillion. $52 trillion is deserved to black people by what we've lost. And not just what we lost, by what America gained in slavery. So for those 300 years of slavery, $52 trillion, we're not even talking about the other 150 years afterwards, where our credit is still being diminished, marginalized, and taken away from us. We're not talking about that. So literally just that, to take into consideration $52 trillion, we just did a $1.2 trillion stimulus bill for COVID-19 that is going to probably devalue the dollar greatly. And it is completely going to change up our economy forever. Now multiply that times 50. And that's what black people deserve. Like, that entire thing is that's the status quo that nobody wants to talk about changing. And so when you talk about right versus wrong and two different people, it's like there is no right and wrong in any of our responses. Some people are going to be protesting right now. Some people are going to be giving out food. Some people are going to be making care packages. Some people are going to be going out on the streets to vote. Some people are going to be writing letters to police commissioners, to different law officials. Some people are going to be choosing to go to black businesses. Some people are going to be choosing to take all their money and put them into black banks. I actually we were talking about this before. I had one of my black friends. He hit me up and he said that, he hasn't been going to physically protest, and he feels, like he feels bad about it. But this black friend during this time, he works for a Fortune 500 company. And in his Fortune 500 company, he set up a mentorship program to help him and other interns to be able to talk about these issues that they're having, so they can have an outlet, a safe space, so they don't have to feel so wound up. And he said in their meetings, he's at tears. He has people saying this stuff. I'm like, and I told him, I was like, bro, that's a protest in itself. I said, not all of us are physically meant to be out there on the streets. Like, and I don't want anybody to think that should be the perspective that, oh, if I'm not out here on these streets holding up signs, something like, well, we do need people having that. I'm not, demeaning what that people do need to be on the street protesting, but not everybody has that luxury to be able to do that. Right now, we do have a lot of people protesting because we have a lot of people working from home. So people have time to protest. I'm an essential worker. I don't necessarily have time to go out and be on these streets protesting. So that, what I can do? I can make a podcast about it. I can choose not to just allow it to be and just do another podcast. I can go make it reflective in my art. I can go talk to people. You know how many I've reached out to all my friends, white and black, and say, hey, yo, you need to have questions. You've had questions for me. I've had other white people have questions for me. And I've been, even though it can be draining, I've had those conversations. That's how you protest in itself as well. Like, you don't shut down, you keep moving forward. And you keep moving forward with a plan of action to change stuff. And you change things by changing your behavior and changing the circumstances that you have effect over. So Martin versus Malcolm, neither one of them are right. They're both my heroes. They're my left and right arm. When I have to think about two heroes in the past or two people I want to interview, those are the two that are always going to come to mind first. Like I said, I'm from Atlanta, so Martin Luther King holds dear, but when I had to look at the progression of a man changing from one thing and blossoming into another one, was always Malcolm X. Like, I would say no books have affected me as much as Malcolm X's books, or books written about him and the man that he became through the circumstances he had to understand, he had to overcome. Because Martin did have a little more privilege in terms of life, in terms of family. Like, he, 2-parent household, was able to go off to Morehouse, was able to go get his PhD in Boston University, I want to say. He was able to go on that path. Like, Malcolm's father was he was a radical at the time, because he spoke up for black people in Detroit.
He was a preacher.
Technically they both had preacher fathers. Yeah. But he was a radical. Not saying that Martin Luther King's father wasn't a radical preacher, but he was so radical that the Ku Klux Klan threw him in front of the train.
Right.
And at that point, Malcolm's mother, Malcolm was one of 6. The government came and took away the children. They said that she couldn't take care of them. So then Malcolm has to be in the foster system at 10 years old. So you wonder why he had to find a way to become, a criminal. He had to find a way of his own. He had to find a way to eat. I mean, that's what people don't see. They love it when it's Oliver Twist, when that's the story of an orphan. But they don't necessarily love it when it's a real life story. So he found a way to eat, and then out of that, and then committing a crime, who he committed a crime with his best friend and 2 white females. The white females got no time.
Yep.
And him and his best friend got 10 years. And in those 10 years in jail, he finds Elijah Muhammad, and he finds the Nation of Islam, and he changes his entire life around to become one of the most historic and legendary figures to ever walk this planet. And the changes that he made that came through, and he told how black people felt without fear of repercussion. He told the unfiltered truth, and that was correct, because that needed to be said. Now, Martin Luther King, we also needed him to be the way he was. He needed to, because at the time, like I said, the system wasn't going to change to be like Malcolm. Even though, as much as we would have wanted it to be that, it wasn't going to take those leaps and hurdles. So we needed a Martin to be a standard for right now. We needed someone to preach hope, because this is hard to just live with all this and to live on. We needed someone to preach a little bit of hope. And out of Martin does come President Barack Obama. It does come people like that. But I'm not going to say that I'm not going to say that he was ever wrong or Malcolm was ever wrong. They were men. They were flawed. They had, every ideology is wrong. What's right? Capitalism and communism, they both have flaws. Like, if they didn't have flaws, there would be no need for the other. Like, this would be the economic system. And so they were both men who, at the end of the day, the intent was for them to fight for their people. And so at the end of the day, they were the same type of man. They were men who were willing to get, and they both got assassinated for it. So if anything you want to see the quality of the character, they were willing to state what they wanted to state it unapologetically, and then die for it. And so when we're talking about all this kind of stuff, like, and I have heard so many, harp on this with your next question, but I've heard so many, you know, white people saying, well, what can I do and what can I be and all this kind of stuff. Like, you see that a lot of black people have to be willing to put our lives on the line for this. And you want to say the word ally and stuff like that. I actually don't like the word ally. I don't like the word ally because you have to remember the Russians were allies to America in World War II.
Right.
They were allies. We fought together. It's the big three. It's Stalin, FDR, and Churchill. And so those were the big three. They were on the side of each other, fighting against war, fighting against the Germans and Japanese. They were allies. After World War II, what does Russia become? We went into the Cold War. And so then suddenly our ally have become our enemies that fast. So you say you want to be an ally, allies can become enemies way too quick. So I don't want you to be our allies. I want you to be our friends. Because friendship is beautiful because friendship, there's a sense of loyalty there that an ally doesn't have. So friends stick up for friends because they're their friends and they've earned that right for them to be stuck up for. Friends stick up for friends even when it's hard. Friends stick up for friends even when it might bring damage to themselves. You know, so it's not about being allies, it's about being our friends. And then there's a big thing I also think of. When you say the word ally sounds so dehuman. It's so not natural. A friend is like you see us as humans. Right. You know, and I think that's another big issue that we're dealing with. Like, I don't necessarily feel like the cops feel like they're killing somebody. They don't feel it because they feel like they feel like dogs are given greater rights in this country than black people are every single day. If you want to look at that, we can just look at the NFL. NFL, Ray Rice beat his girlfriend, and he was able to go get back on the field. Ben Roethlisberger was accused of rape several times, and his career hasn't had any type of blemish. You know, the Patriots have cheating scandals and all this kind of stuff. Like, none of their careers have been affected at all. Like, Michael Vick went to jail, lost his job because not even he was doing it. His cousins were doing dog fighting. And maybe he put in some money for it. Maybe, I don't know, we can argue whether he did know or didn't know, but he was giving his cousins money. His cousins were taking that to be put in dog fighting, and he lost his job, and his career was never the same. So whose life matters more? The people, like I said, I can just say how pretty much it was just all the dog's life were over everybody else's. And so if a dog was getting abused, we would have a lot of tears right now. And those police officers, I would know would be going to jail if these are all been dogs, because we love our dogs. I love dogs too. Dogs, great, loyal creatures. And we love them probably because they are loyal creatures. I don't want you to love us like dogs. I want you to love us like humans. Because at the end of the day, we are humans. We are of the same families. We are of the same family. We are, 99.9999 to the infinite the same. Like I said, when it comes down to his hair being a little straighter than mine, or his eyes being blue and my eyes being brown, that is such a small difference in our DNA that is almost immeasurable. So be friends. Don't be allies, be friends.
I'll be your friend.
You are my friend, buddy. You are.
How do we change the status quo?
How do we change the status quo? Now, okay, I'm going to start this one off with a little anecdote from me and your friendship.
Okay.
So at the time, so me and Blair, we met in college. We've definitely established that on this podcast. And we met in Physics 2 class. And whereas we became friends, we became very, socially distant friends, meaning that like he was friends, we would see each other in the gym. We would maybe work out from time to time. Our conversations were always surface level. They were talking about physics, how hard Georgia Tech was. Very simple things. Now, at the time, the gym that we worked at, I also was a personal trainer. And not even just a personal trainer, I was a head of the personal training program. And not even just a head of that, I was also head of student programs. So a little bit, just but I had put in the time, I had put in the work, I had some.
And it was well earned.
I had influence. I could, bring candidates to the table, and I could hire them. So I had that type of influence. So Blair wanted to be a personal trainer. I brought him and put him on the route to becoming a personal trainer. I led to him getting hired. And I was technically his boss at the time. And so we're working a shift, in our gym, and me and him are walking around, talking, being friends, working our shift, and a patron comes up and has some question about, a policy that we have. And he's asking Blair. And it's not even he's asking Blair. So it's like, if the patron is right here, he's going through me to ask Blair. And Blair had been working there, a hot month? A small amount of time.
Not long enough.
And I had been working there a year or 2 years. Again, I'm the boss. So technically, Blair's like, I don't really know. And he's leaning to my understanding. This patron looks through me to you.
Yes.
The entire time. Even when I start answering the question,
yes.
He looks through me to Blair. Like, the entire time. And then, when the question gets answered by me and not Blair, he tells Blair, thank you. And walks off and continues around his merry day.
I remember he asked 3 or 4 questions. And literally every time you answered, and then he looked back he would ask the question, and then you would answer. It was a cycle. And then finally, he said thank you to me.
And so, after that incident, I walked off. This is a regular day for me. I thought nothing of it because white man didn't see my value. That's a Tuesday for me.
I think I even brought that up.
No, you did. That was our first conversation. You came to me and said something along the lines of, "Did you see that shit?" Like it was a noticeable outrage. It was a noticeable, and I was like, pretty much me was like, "Oh, what? Him just not seeing me?" And that's become a big thing in our society, seeing us. We have like, "Oh, he sees me," or "She sees me." Like we're having that right now. That he didn't see me. He saw you. Even though I'm answering his question, like you have to think maybe this is a blind man. Which maybe we should ask. Maybe he was blind. Maybe he didn't know. But it's like Blair saw the interaction and he wanted to have that conversation. I was fine with not having that conversation. I was fine with keeping our friendship just what it was at the time. But Blair wanted to have that conversation and see how this affected me. And then from there, it leads to this podcast. That's really, if we don't have that first conversation, we never have the second conversation. Yes. We never have the 50th conversation that then becomes truly unfiltered, truly raw, truly where he gets to know me and I get to know him. We don't have that, but Blair had to have that interest because at the end of the day, what white man, and before you, Blair, I mean, honestly, and people can say about this podcast where I'm wrong or whatever, but like before that, no white person had ever shown interest in me being a black person and the struggle that I go through. No, like none. Like I had been at Georgia Tech for 2 years before I met you. Like no white person had ever had that conversation. No white person had ever cared about that. So it's like I walked off thinking this, because that wasn't going to be, like you said, it never was you guys' fight. And you guys never believed it's your fight. You think, and you honestly don't even think there is a fight that we have to fight every single day. But you did. And so that leads us to a completely different conversation. And that question or that discussion we have changed of the status quo in our friendship. That's what it did. So when you talk about the status quo is how I would say, like, define it, is that like you're gonna have incidents that make you do this and that, but it's the trend line. So if we have it from a mathematical perspective of different dots on here, what's the overall pattern? That's the status quo. So right now we have people marching in the street. We have people sacrificing a lot for themselves. Did we not have that with Martin Luther King and Malcolm X?
We did.
Did we not have that with Mike Brown in 2013, Trayvon in 2012, Philando Castile in 2016? Like, the list goes on. Honestly, for black people, marches have never stopped since the 60s. They haven't. I mean, literally, I can probably guarantee there's been a march every year since I Have a Dream. I can guarantee it. Now, they might not all got publicized. They might not have got put on the media. The news outlets might have didn't give them recognition and attention that they deserved, because it seems like they pick and choose which ones they want to give, right. Because, again, we want to talk about all the people like, while Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd are 3 current ones, there's been several that happened in between them as well. Those are the 3 we're giving recognition to. And so it's just like you're picking and choosing. But I say all that to say is that this has been constantly happening. So those are the different points on that are not the trend line. Because what ends up happening is we have this point here, and then after this dies down and 2 weeks later, we have another point here, and then it averages out to the status quo, and it all goes back to this. another reason that I want to do this podcast today and literally release it tomorrow, because we have never done this before, is because I know that the status quo is going to go back to the status quo very soon.
Right.
Like, so it's like literally this has more potency as soon as released possible, because I know the status quo is going to see its face emerge and eat up everything that's happening as soon as possible. So when you think about status quo, and you've listened at this point probably 30 to 40 minutes in this podcast and all the things I've explained and all the economic disparities and all the economic, just this thievery that's happened to Black people, what is status quo? What is power? What is equality? What is all of these terms and representation and all this kind of stuff? What is that? What does that look like? How is that panned out in society? It's a complete change in the societal system that is America. I told you there is no America right now without the inherent racism that America was birthed through. There is none. So you tell me you want to change the status quo, you want to help. You're changing the inherent system that America was birthed out of. Do you know what it takes Do you know what it takes to do that? Do you know what it takes to literally change Black Lives Mattering? Because you know what, Black Lives Mattering isn't just Black Lives Mattering in a sense. It's pretty much Black Lives Mattering as much as white lives matter. So meaning that, like, would that police officer have kneeled on a white man who said, "I can't breathe," for 9 minutes? It's the Black women who are in giving birth to children and who are 2 to 3 times less likely to be believed in their pain. And that causes a 20% death increase of death for them and the infant, because doctors don't believe it. It is when I put a 15-year-old Black male in front of the judge and he is going to get 15 years for a crime, whereas I put that same white male in front of it, he'll get probation. He'll get a detention center. It is those kind of inherent things. It is the difference of cocaine getting you less time than crack gets you, because crack is a Black drug, whereas cocaine was a white drug.
Yeah.
It is those inherent things. And it's also the inherent things of just how much we don't necessarily. This is a hard way to put it. I like to use the analogy of when Disney bought Fox. When they bought Fox, it was a one big, media conglomerate buying another one. And so because America has anti-monopolization policies, Fox had to give up a lot of their channels. And they had to sell them off because Disney couldn't own that much. And so nobody's interested in buying those channels at first. Nobody was. Now, Ice Cube, if you don't know who Ice Cube is, he's a Black man. He gathered up other prominent Black people to raise up the money to be able to buy those channels. And he did. And he had enough to, whatever their asking price was, he had enough. And then suddenly when he has enough, you have Warner Media steps in to buy it. Where was Warner Media at this time before? Because the whole thing about it is, right now, also, we have to depend on CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News to show our perspective. That's what we do. That's the reality that Black people live in, because guess what? All of our news channels have either been burned to the ground, they get taken away. It's a lot of different factors. So we have to depend upon other people to tell and showcase our stories. That's the state of Black people are in right now. Right. So guess what? You think the person who owns MSNBC, CNN, and Fox, whereas Fox is conservative, CNN is, usually moderate, and MSNBC is usually liberal, they're all billionaires. You don't think billionaires are friends with other billionaires? At a certain point, how many billionaires are friends with just millionaires? Like, I know I definitely don't got no billionaire friends. If you got some billionaire friends, let me know, because I need to make a few phone calls. But they're all friends. They know you to a certain extent, you only hang around people of that same status. Mm-hmm. So when we think of one channel being so much different than another one, yeah, politically they might be, but when it comes down to the lack of that vision is not the word, but like the lack of what's going on amongst regular people. And they're all gonna be white billionaires. They don't know what's happening to a Black middle class person. They don't know what Black people are going through. Like, they have no clue. And I don't expect them to know what's going through. But guess what? If there's a Black person who is like Ice Cube, who came from Compton, came from poverty, and he owns it, he has a pretty good grasp of my experience. So he can showcase stories that I need to be showcased. And then we want to talk about media. The media, when we see Black people on television, we usually don't see the smart, scientific, nerdy Black guy who, is making all these changes. We really didn't get to see that until Barack Obama. We either see basketball players, we see rappers, or we see somebody who has committed a crime.
Those are the heroes.
Or those are the representation that we get. So it's like, so then you have to look at, so then what ends up happening? What becomes on movies and television? What becomes representation of black men all over? It's either they're committing a crime on television, in terms of like the character we're writing is a trope, that there's a crime being committed, or we're showing them as having to rap, having to play basketball. And it's nothing against rapping and playing basketball, but is there some, if I said for white women, oh, you guys are only pop stars and princesses, like, while there are some women who have become princesses, or some, you have your Taylor Swift who become pop stars, if I said that that's the accumulation of the only type of white woman I can showcase, white women would be mad at me.
Yeah, it's pretty limited.
It's very limited. But then it also, what makes it more limited is now you get a generation of kids who can only see that as what they can be. Like everybody who has been in a lower socioeconomic class, they usually say that I never thought I could be a doctor. I never thought I could be an engineer. Me being a robotic engineer is really that I go talk to kids, they're like, I didn't even know I could do that. Like, can you imagine you going and talking to a kid, and we all think about kids, what do you want to be? I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a cowboy, I want to be a doctor, I want to be this and that. Imagine a kid saying, I never thought I could be this. Like, and it's not like I have something that's just so unattainable. I got a 4-year degree from a college, and I went into my field. Imagine a kid saying that they could not be that. That is America having failed the system. A place of you can be whatever you want to be, the American pie, the dream. People move here, immigrants move here to get a piece of this American exceptionalism. And I'm having my kids say, I never thought I could be anything other than a rapper and basketball player. And if you can't be those two things, I still got to eat. How am I going to eat? Probably by illegal means. That's a failure in America. And honestly, I'm not willing to hear any other different perspective of that. Like, that's a failure in America when a kid believes he can't be anything else other than those 3 options. And then, and it's reflected everywhere. It's reflected in our education system. We had a world history book. I remember I took AP World History. It's a 37-chapter book. 2 chapters on Africa. 2 chapters. The oldest civilizations are all based on the African kingdoms. We have several different things. 2 chapters based on Africa. Not to say that any of the other chapters didn't have meaning, but you look at history, that's what? That's like 1.5%, somewhere around there, of that's what you thought history was. And so on that test, so what does that make me feel like? What does it make me feel like when every single February is the time I get to learn about my people in this country? And you give me the same tropes of Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks. I don't even get Malcolm X that much. I get the same different people, and it becomes
what they want you to be.
I get who they want me to be. You get the same different things. So to go back to changing the status quo, you change everything. You change it all. And if you want to be a friend, a white friend as we're talking about, you're talking about changing that status quo. I'm talking about you going out and not supporting these different institutions who are about to back a president who is, like I said, I understand it does become political, but we have a president right now who has said that if the protesting really, doesn't stop or stop in the way it is, he's willing to send out the military. And to say that, if this doesn't stop, I'll kill people. I will use my military power to kill people. Now, it doesn't matter. Like I said, I've always said it doesn't matter about Republican, Democrat. I don't care who. But if you are a friend of this movement, you need to be, and you're a Republican, you need to be demanding that Donald Trump doesn't speak like this. Like I said, it doesn't matter. I don't need you to go. You don't need to switch over to vote for Biden or vote for another party. If that's not what your political affiliation is, I don't care. But if you say you're a friend, you need to be demanding that your party is talking up for this. And then you need to, like I said, that's the same thing. We need to demand that Democrats talk about it. Democrats should be outraged. And then we need to demand that there is legislation. There is more political representation. There is giving other candidates a shot who aren't just born out of privilege or born with the right skin complexion. We need to make that thing. We need to make that a thing. And then we need to think about our corporations, because if there are companies who are backing these candidates, so if they are giving their money to these candidates and something, then we're giving our money to them, we're backing those candidates. So you need to make sure all the products that you're wearing are in the right spaces and on the right side of history and on, if you're a friend, so that might be, like I said, after what the president has said, we said Waffle House, Chick-fil-A, and those hurt my heart because those are Atlanta and those are as Atlanta as they can be. And I go to those, but I have to stop eating those places because are they going to change up their political stance? I probably should have stopped eating at Chick-fil-A after they did the whole Blue Lives Matter thing. Not saying that Blue Lives don't matter, but you're doing that in opposition to Black Lives Matter.
Right.
And so, and then it's not even about then if they do want to black out for the companies you do, that's great. Take it a step further because blacking out is not going to change the status quo. How many of you have Black people in your CEOship or on the cabinet or in high official positions? When we go back to what was it, H&M, who put the Black boy in the monkey suit, or we go back to Pepsi with Kendall Jenner, and we're saying she hands the police and a Black person a Pepsi, and that ends racism in America. How many tests do we have to go through? How many markets, how many eyes have to be on these products before they get to the public? Both of these products got to the public, which meant that there was no Black person. There was nobody who said, man, maybe this is wrong. That lets me know that you don't have Black people in the spaces to make decisions. And then you don't have people with a broad perspective of different people and different struggles that people face in those spaces to make change. So with these companies you are blacking out, okay, let me see the marketing team you have. Let me see the people who have positions of power in your infrastructure. And I don't want to hear there aren't qualified candidates because I know way too many qualified candidates. I know way too many Black people who I have just graduated with, went to school with, who I've met on walks of life, who are doing amazing things, who could lead their example. So that's a bullshit reason in itself. You're not trying to get those candidates. So again, and it might be sometimes we can't tell what their names are on the resume. I don't want to say there's Black names or white names. There are names that typically might be Black or white, but we do have, I know every job application I had to fill out, it has to say, I have to check. I can choose to check if I'm a Black person, but maybe you go out of your way to seek after Black individuals because that's how you change after status quo. The status quo doesn't change by itself. It changes by us doing something extra to keep moving it to where we shift that trend line up.
Isn't that what Malcolm X said? You have to seek after the black qualified candidates?
Yes, Malcolm, and that's why he was dope. But again, going back to the education system, we don't learn about that in Malcolm X. We learn about just by any means and
violence.
In violence. We learned he was never a violent man. He was a defensive man.
Yeah.
He never said, go kill nobody for no imperative reason. He said, if somebody puts their hands on you, he said, fight back. He said an eye for an eye, which, we have many Christians who probably going to listen to this podcast. We are definitely in America, says them very biblical, an eye for an eye. And so that's the thing. But in the education system, though, again, that's another thing that needs to change. We don't see our stories represented in the way that makes us feel included. And so then when you look at what happens, though, the triggering effect is that, a Black kid, the first time he learns about himself is in change, is in slavery. You learn about my culture being ripped away. That's the beginning of history for Black people. And that's all that we're given. And I told you, we only get 2 chapters in world history in 10th grade. So we don't get that we were kings and queens. We don't get Timbuktu. We don't get the pyramids. We don't get all these education. We don't get that how much of Europe was built up by the Moors, who were Black people who entered into that. We don't get how Black people were explorers way before. We don't get how Black people discovered America 1,000 years before a person named Christopher Columbus was ever even in existence. And if you don't know those stories, hit me up and I can send you articles, news, research, books, whatever you want to have that, because most people don't know those stories. But imagine how damning that is for the young Black boys and girls who don't get that. They don't get that. They get told the first time, as a Black woman or a Black girl, the first time I hear about Black women in this country is that they're getting sold as property and then use that to rape their bodies. So you've only ever been objectified in yourself. And we always hear about, women, the number one, a big issue for females that are sick and tired of being objectified. That's what Black girls have only ever known. Objectification. As a Black man, it's considered, you were in change. You couldn't defend your family. You couldn't do this. You had to be murdered if you did. We do learn about the rebellions, but all those rebellious Black men got killed. That's what you get. So then, what am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to be as growing into a Black man? So those education systems are things that you never do get. But then if you get to the point where you learn about the history that stems way beyond these 500 years, that stems thousands, millennia of years, you start seeing kings and queens. You start seeing black men who were kings who were wearing do-rags. And then what you stop seeing is you stop seeing that do-rags being this thing of the ghetto. You start seeing it as being something of a lower income people. And you start saying that, oh, this is a cultural thing. This is a thing that makes black people, it's something that makes us black. When you just go back to your original question and you start getting pride in the things that I do on a normal basis instead of trying to hide it all the time. That this is what we've always been. And it's only been 500 years of us having demonized it. You start seeing that. And I would say, to kind of go back, you asked me what am I most proud of? I'm also most proud of my history. The fact of that we were kings and queens. And you can be proud if, I don't know if you're British or you're French or anything, but if you have kings in there who did things that were great, you can be proud of that. I can be proud of my history too. If you're Asian American, you can be proud of all the things that you built in Asia. The Indian, you can be proud of all of those things, and we can be proud of them without having to tear down each other. But it's like our stories and our pride in America, it never is given. It's never so taste. It's never given to us. I didn't get this until I'm in college. And honestly, by that point, it's literally too late. You're either on the right path or you're on the wrong path. Right. How many black men are locked up before they get into college? Like, how many people are already, they don't have that sense of worth? And that what was so big about Malcolm X is that he was so lost when he went to jail as a black man, as a cultural identity perspective. And when he goes there, Elijah Muhammad gives him a different view than America gives of him being black. And so at this point, it's like America doesn't want to give us that view. So then and it becomes a call to black people. It becomes, we got to give ourselves those views. So we got to give our children that. We got to give, whereas, you can just send your child off to public school and he's going to get his worth. He's going to already be told he's a king or a queen. That's fine. Now, black people, we're going to have to set up institutions. We're going to have to set up all of these type of things to build up our children into being kings and queens. And then take it up a step a notch. Because that's it. People say, well, go build those institutions. We have. We definitely do. They get demonized. Everybody's saying Black Lives Matter now, but let's go back to 2013 when we first saying Black Lives Matter. Did that not get demonized? Let's go back to, we had our own with Rosewood, with Tulsa, with all these different places. Did they not get bombed? Did they not? There was no, I'm sorry, maybe some money was paid out, but you don't get those lives back. You don't, and then these are people who built up institutions. So you're thinking these are some of our highest intellectual thinkers. And they're gone now. They're not in here. And now we got to restart building it back over. Think about right now, if I bombed think about COVID, no, I'm not even saying, think about what COVID-19 has done. Think about how many businesses are disappearing now because of COVID-19. Imagine now that COVID-19 happened to black people, except it was called racism, and it was a lot worse. And that's a reality. And that's where we live. So when we talk about white people being friends, and we talk about even how black people can, it becomes a point where we got to put black culture as a priority. You can't value it right now when you've seen these videos. I appreciate the tears that people are having for it and that they want it. I appreciate it. I'm not going to demean that. Okay, now what are you going to do about it? What plan of action do you have? Are you going to go out and support black businesses? And even if black businesses do not have the best customer service, but you can't say a black business that expected to have the same customer service in year one that other established franchises have had for 100 years. You can't expect that. They have built up their customer service. And I can go and tell you Walmart has terrible customer service and we all shop at Walmart. So I don't necessarily want to hear that argument either. I want you to give it a shot and keep giving it a shot. I want you to keep pouring in your dollars. Maybe write an issue and say, give feedback and critiques. But guess what? If you're putting in your money there, when you start putting in your money there, they can afford to have training classes. They can afford to do other things. They can afford to make it a means by which it becomes better. But if they're working with limited staff and they're trying to appease everybody, it's not going to be the case. So you want it to be better, put your money where your mouth is. Politically, socially, when you go out to eat, anything, put your money where your mouth is and everything changes. And I guarantee it.
Well, but is it just about money? So, you've taught me a lot about this over the years. Since that one conversation where I actually wanted to know more about you, about what you go through. What I've seen since that time is that a lot of racism is subconscious. You can be racist and not even know it, just by tendencies that you have that you're not even fully aware of. For instance, when we were at Tech, and he kept looking at me, and then not at you, and then me, and then not at you, right?
Yeah.
Secondly, do you know that black baby dolls are priced lower than white baby dolls?
See, the thing is, it's not surprising though.
That's supply and demand though. That's not even like, that is purely subconscious.
But then it's even the black baby doll experiment through psychology of how black baby dolls, children,
right,
the innocent white children, white children thought that the white baby dolls were valued more than the black baby dolls, and they thought they were pretty and they thought they looked better, whereas the black baby doll they thought they were uglier.
Right.
That's the whole thing.
Right.
So it is the.
I guess where I'm coming from is I know a lot of white people. I know a lot of black people. And I know a lot of white people that, from my circumstance, they think that they aren't racist, and yet they show some tendencies. And I'm not immune to this. That's not what I'm saying. I, from time to time, do see that. But the thing is, it takes introspection, especially for a white person, especially for someone who isn't aware of their white privilege, of what racism really means. It's very hard to look into yourself and to start seeing these things and breaking them down and trying to dismantle your unconscious biases.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's just laws and money and politics that's going to do it. That'll help. It will. But at the end of the day, we need how we feel, our subconscious, to actually change. And that's the harder action.
Is that going to happen? I mean, so the thing about it, so not that I don't disagree with that, but it's to say that when you go back and you're looking at things of like status quo, and you think about, I told you that inherently this country was birthed. There is no America and racism, they're the same thing. That's because they're inherent. They came together. They were birthed together. That's like they're twins.
Yeah.
Came out of the same room at the same time. And so now you're literally asking a group of people who it's inherent to them in every single way, in ways that they don't even know, in ways that they can't even know as of right now, because they haven't done that introspection. And even when they do that introspection, they're still going to miss it. You're asking for them to unleash all that bias, because at that bias, you have to start thinking. Now, it goes into things like the golden ratio. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but like they have a thing called the golden ratio of your face. And it's the most beautiful person has the golden ratio. All of that are completely European standards. It's a thinner nose, it's smaller lips, it's, this and that. The more European you have that. That's the golden ratio of beauty. So so people were just ugly before Europeans came in contact. But so you're asking for then now, for women who normally felt beautiful, now your beauty is biased. It's biased beauty. So your standards now, you have to dig into that. You have to dig into now every single thing that I have that I feel was my worth and my value was built upon a lie. And you have to tear all of that down. And I think you should. I mean, I'm here for it. I would love for that, but I don't know if most people are going to be willing to see that because they've seen one video. I don't think most people care.
You're just going to make one video.
Fair. Well, I was not thinking about. I was thinking about George Floyd with the knee, but
okay.
But that's what I say. Literally, you have to tear apart every single thing. I told you how many businesses got destroyed from us. I told you how many stuff. But then and then white liberals are very much out right now protesting. They're the ones who are protesting. But gentrification usually isn't a white conservative issue. Right. It's a white liberals who are gentrifying our communities. So meaning that you're seeing an economic opportunity And instead of trying to help the people who you are economically disposing, you are taking advantage of them. So we want to talk, like I said, this is not a conservative, this is not, racism is all across the board.
Right.
You were born into a system. And so, yes, there are people who are less racist and there are people who are more racist, but you
are there?
I mean,
Malcolm X, Fox, or Wolf, right?
Okay, so you can, so are the Democrats or Republicans more racist? People would say Democrat was the party that, I would say you all have your levels of racism, and it affects all of you because it affects all of us. Every black person in this country, I guarantee you, is born feeling inferior. We all have that. So I know every white person is born feeling superior.
Right. Just
because of your color of your skin. So yes, you have racist tendencies. Yes, you might think about other topics. You might even have married a black woman or married a black man and feel like, oh, but guess what? You're raising those black kids. when you have the kids come out, and are you going to be having those conversations? Are you going to be having the conversations that need to be having with those kids before they get in the encounter with the police? Are you going to be raising them as black men and black women? Or are you going to be trying to, have this ideology that, everything's going to be okay? America's changing because me and her or me and him were able to fall in love and overcome all this stuff. And that's how I'm not saying it's a hard conversation to have. These are tough things and tough issues to tackle. And so that you have to really, it's almost like you have to go and devalue yourself in order to get to the point of like, what is right, what is wrong, and what am I going to be able to do? I don't know how many people, and it's not the large majority, who are willing to take a step back and realize that all my worth is built on a lie, or a lot of my worth is built upon a lie. That every single thing that I have, the privilege that I have, or these other things I have, is because it was taken from somebody else. And so that's the thing. That's why changing the status quo has not happened. We can say that there has been progress in America, and we can say this and that, but like, I told you guys, the 1870 speech and 1959 speech and the 2020 speech all sound the same. So really, how much progress has there been? Or has it been perceived progress? Has it been that there's the media around it that like, we're not as bad because we don't see a black man hanging from a tree every single, but wait, didn't we just see the 2 videos? I mean, just because we don't use nooses and now we use guns, there was one a civilian and one a police officer. Police officers were lynching black people back in the 50s too. So, and the thing about police, why it's so easy to go get on the police, and not that they don't need to be got on, but it's so easy because they are the most overt ways that we see racism play out in society. Yes. Then I told you about how black women when they're giving birth, like white doctors don't listen to their pain. That's an inherent bias, and it causes more black women are dead today because of that. More black babies are dead because of that. Like, so it gets so deep into the different topics, into the different things. It's like, you really have to start seeing like this is a huge breakup call. This is a hit in the face, a punch in the gut for white people. This is what black people have always gone through. We've always known this. And honestly, moving forward, black people are getting more and more sick and tired of all of this. Like, that's why a lot of more black people are like, get away from us white people. It's why every single time we see a white person, there's not even it's going to stop being a question mark. There's going to be a get away from me. Because it's like you doing more harm by us being friends than by not. It's like, I can't live the way you live and you don't see the way I live. You don't even want to see me. You don't even want to see me as human. And in order to see me as human, you need to get off your pedestal. A pedestal that was built upon suffering, built upon tears, built upon murder, and built upon rape. And if you can't see that those are the 4 stools that are holding up your pedestal, then you're not my friend, you are my enemy. And it is Muhammad Ali has a very powerful quote. He says that if you see 10,000 rattlesnakes were coming into that door, and he's like in front of a big audience when he's saying this. He said 10,000 rattlesnakes are coming into this door, and 9,000 have the intention of biting you. Are you going to open up the door and allow the 10,000 in, or are you going to close the door and allow them not to get in to bite you? That's what the point where we've gotten. It's like, we're going to start closing the door because we're sick and tired of 1,000 biting us. And it becomes, we have to protect ourselves. Because America's not. And then, like I said, I mean, at a certain point, I've lost a lot of hope in America trying to protect us. And it's become more of a self-independent, we got to protect ourselves, because America has proven time and time again, when it's time to step up, they fall. They falter. They go back to the status quo. And so if white people want to help out, if white people want to be better, first of all, you go watch some Jane Elliott. I told you this white fragility or frugality. I forgot to say it. Fragility. I said it right the first time. But read those books. Watch some different stuff. Have conversations, and honestly speak up in spaces that Black people are not there. In the boardrooms, in the meetings, when you hear these trope of characters that are not, that speak up. When we walk into a place, the atmosphere is how we're treated is going to completely change versus you just walking in there. So if you're truly my friend, I expect you to speak up for me as if I'm there. If you're not willing to do that, you're not a friend. You're just saying words because it's popular to say words. And you want to, people go back and they look at this time period, what were you doing? You can say, oh, I blacked out on Instagram. Oh, I went to a few protests. And that's a lot of what people do. They try to be, because it's popular right now. It's honestly right now in American society, if you're not hurt by what happened to George Floyd, you're really dealing with a dispopular opinion.
Yeah. You're seen as a monster.
You're seen as a monster. So what's easy then? It's easy to do that. You know what's going to be hard? In 2 weeks for you to keep up the same energy.
Yeah, when the virtue signaling is no longer there.
Exactly. We got a whole bunch of political. 2020 is a political election. I'm not even talking about president. I'm talking about different senators, congressmen. Different senators, congressmen, governors. You have a whole bunch of stuff. Are you demanding that, whether they're Republican or Democrat, are you demanding the best of them? Are you demanding that they speak up about these issues? You have police commissioners online. You have judges. Are you demanding the best of these candidates? If you're not a friend. If you're not willing to sacrifice, again, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, you want to consider both of them. If you like Team Martin put his life on the line for this. Are you willing to put your livelihood? You know how many calls and threats that Coretta Scott King, and we can talk about Martin Luther King, we didn't even mention Coretta Scott King, how strong she had to be, how much she had to be, and she ended up becoming a single mom because of a fight that her husband took on. Yeah. And so did Betty Sabat. They became single moms because of this. Because their husbands were willing to die so their kids could live in a better. And not even their kids are probably going to live worse because they lost their dad. It's a hard thing. But they're depending upon a legacy that other kids will be able to live better. So Black people have always in this country been willing to put our lives on the line. We can go Nat Turner, we can go Gabriel Proctor, we can go Denmark Vesey, we can go all these other people. But if you're not willing to be a John Brown was the one white rebellious leader who died with the slaves leading a slave rebellion. If you're not willing to be John Brown, then I don't really want to hear it. That's the only thing. I don't have time for those tears because those tears are fake. They're a guilty conscience that is trying to make me feel better, but that's trying to make me feel better, make me feel like you're not the enemy. Don't try to make me feel like you're not the enemy. Don't be the enemy. And then I don't care what you say. You can not black out all you want if you're doing the things you need to do. I haven't necessarily been going to protest because I have other things. I'm making this. I'm doing my art. So like I said, I don't need to talk about a protest because I protest every single day. I keep the energy. I always shop at Black restaurants. I'm always trying to put my money in the Black community. I'm always trying to protect my Black brothers and Black sisters. Every single 24/7, 365, every single year, I'm living, being Black, being proud of being Black, and trying to change the narrative of what Black is. Or not even change the narrative, showcase truly what Black is. Because the narrative of what Black is has just been a misguided, misperceived thing that people who don't understand what Black is have put out there. So that's the protest. And that's how you change the status quo in all respects.
That's all I got for you, buddy.
Well, episode has gone long. To get my one movie reference, I do have a movie reference. I do have it. So I think I'm gonna go with American History X. Great movie. Great movie. I think Edward Norton deserved the Oscar for that one. But great story. In that story, Edward Norton is white supremacist. As white supremacist as they come. So white supremacist, he killed a Black person. Right. And goes to jail for it. Yes. And when he's in prison, he obviously joins the white supremacist, Ku Klux Klan, neo-Nazi organization to protect him. And he's there. And what ends up happening is that one of the main leaders of it is actually doing something that does not go with white supremacist ideals. And Edward Norton is so white supremacist, he denounces this leader of the organization that's protecting him. Because he's thinking that I'm going with my principles. These are my principles. So why, if you believe in my same principles, why don't you, why aren't you living that way? And because of his, denouncement of that, he ended up getting raped by the white supremacist organization. and brutally raped until where he is hospitalized and almost dies. And once he gets out of the hospital, he believes that his life is over because obviously he's been a white supremacist in the jail. So, no person of color is going to have anything want to do with him. And then now the white people don't want to have anything to do with them. So my life is over. Now, showcasing the jail scenes were these little small scenes where he had to serve laundry duty with a black guy. And they bonded over things like basketball, having arguments about Magic versus Bird and stuff like that. And the black person went to his other black people in the jail and said, protect this white guy. And they did. And whenever Norton was in jail, he never once had anybody bother him for the rest of the time. And it was because of a black man reaching out to offer his aid and his protection. And I believe that that's always been the case for black people in this country. I believe that black people have always been willing to forgive, see the different perspectives of white people and try to hey, you can learn or you can unlearn with these ills. And we'll be accepted. Honestly, we would be forgiving. That's just really a lot of the type of people we've always shown that we've been in this country. But we've gotten to this point where we're sick of having to blatantly forgive you guys without you saying you're even sorry or without you even taking any action to be sorry. And it's not us. It's not our problem in terms of this. Us being black is a your problem. It's not an our problem. We're gonna be black and we're gonna stay being black. And I don't ever want us to change being black in any of the first two ways that I explained at the beginning of this podcast. I don't want. Our culture is beautiful and we are beautiful, and I never want it to change. But because you guys can't see that, that's where all our problems lie. And until you guys start seeing the beauty that we see in ourselves every single day, man, nothing's gonna change. Nothing's gonna change, at least from the American standpoint. But we're gonna keep seeing our beauty, and we're gonna keep jumping over all the hurdles, keep jumping over all the obstacles, keep running this marathon race, and we're gonna keep getting stronger, keep jumping higher, keep doing this and that, and keep getting better because that's what we've always done, and that's who we've proven to be. So the question is, what is black? Is we've proven to be a people who can overcome. What I would like for my black audience to get from this, our black audience to get from this, is to really just see how beautiful we are and how much we've overcome and how our response has been to this, how quick we are that we can unify and we can come together. Because again, this situation is going to fade and it's going to become a new thing and something else is going to replace it and stuff like that. And then we're going to go back to, well, we can't do this and do that. This situation has showed us the amount of can that we have. It is this can that needs to keep driving us forward. And we need to just keep pressing around this and see just we are beautiful, we are dope, we are all the great adjectives that I can assign to it. And nothing changes that, And so just keep being proud of that, keep being beautiful, keep living beautiful, and keep honestly living apologetic about who we are 365, 24/7. To really just, this anger is going to keep existing until the issue is solved. And so just because the issue isn't being talked about shouldn't mean we just let go of everything. No, we need to continue this fight, make it go forward. And now to the white audience that we have, I want you to learn from Blair. During this entire conversation, Blair didn't try to impede his opinion upon me. He didn't try to over-talk me. He didn't try to, introduce any question marks into what I was saying. He allowed me to be. He saw me. He saw my pain and he listened to it. If we want to take a step forward, and not just for this week, not just for the next 2 weeks or however long this issue is the top thing in American headlines, but for the rest of America, if we want to proceed forward through there, you have to realize you have to start listening to the pain that people are crying out, even when they're not crying, because it's still there. Just because we don't have a video of someone being killed doesn't mean someone's not being killed. I think the statistic is that every 29 hours, a black person is killed by just the hands of police. And again, I don't know a crime in which death is the warrant without you going in front of a judge and jury. I don't know one. So if you know one, fine, but I don't know one. And so we have to start seeing that, or else nothing changes in society, and you don't want to change in society. And if you don't want to change in society, that's fine, but don't black out your page. Don't. Don't say that you're a friend or ally. You're nothing. You're a nemesis. You're a part of those 1,000 rattlesnakes. Just because you're not biting me in front of my face, you're still biting me behind my back. So that's what it takes to be a friend. That's what it takes to change the status quo.
What I would like, specifically the white part of the audience, to take away is to stop telling Black people what to do. I feel like whenever we hear one of these things go on, like a cop beating a Black man up, right? It's kind of a reflex for a lot of white people to say, but if he had done this. And I think that we need to investigate that reflex and kind of try to figure out why that is there. And honestly, to dig deeper into that situation of what went on, try to actually figure out, like, use your critical thinking. And then also dig deeper into yourself and have self-reflection, look into the mirror and see, why is that reflex there? And I think as a white person, I've been lucky to have you in my life because you're someone that I love, and you've always inspired me. You got me to that point where I want to live and die for you. And that's not necessarily what I'm asking of our audience. But what I am asking is for you to take a good, hard look at yourself and decide who you want to be in this fight. Because it's just starting. It's not over.
All right, guys. That was this episode of Breaking and Entering. Until next time.